Hello, Divas. I'm Anne McHale. I'm 40 years old. I live in London and I have my dream career as a Master of Wine at annemchale.com, where I teach people about the joys of being a wine lover. Now, you would think with such a great job, which is so convivial and social, that I would have no problem with my love life either. But it has taken me a long time to get to the happy place that I'm in now, having just completed my first round of the inner circle with Sami and her team. So I'll tell you a bit about my story. Between the ages of 35 and 39, I was single. And even though I went on literally hundreds of dates, I struggled to meet anyone that I thought was good enough for me. I always found fault in the men after the first few dates. But when I threw myself into this work properly, everything changed for me. And in the months coming up to my 39th birthday, I was having so much fun rotational dating. Honestly, ladies, it was the best. At any given time, I had 3 or 4 lovely men taking me on these really cool dates to fancy cocktail bars and Mayfair restaurants. I was so much in the zone that when I went on my first date with the man that I'm now in a committed relationship with, it felt magical. I was so unattached to the outcome, so present, and he told me afterwards that I was really magnetic to him. But then when we entered a proper relationship, all my old habits started to come up again. For me, I would say the 2 areas that I struggled with were judgment and control. So lots of masculine energy. I kept finding fault with everything about him. I kept wanting to control and change him. And honestly, for about a year, I felt like I was constantly on the cusp of breaking up with him because he wasn't good enough for me. So it was that old pattern re-emerging. But something in me just knew deep down that this was a wonderful man and that it would be a real mistake to leave the relationship. He has such a big heart. He is so loving and affectionate towards me, so supportive of me. He's like my cheerleader in my career and in everything I do. And we laugh so much together. So I continued with the relationship, but at times I felt I was being torn in two with all these conflicting feelings. Then we decided to move in together, and I knew at that point that I would need deeper levels of support in order to navigate all the triggers and judgments that would inevitably come up when we shared a space. So at that point, I signed up for the inner circle for women in relationships. So the inner circle was transformational for me. So much so that I've signed up for another round because I know that I can always go deeper with this work. There are some more things I'd like to finesse, to get really good at, but it's really helped me so far with my 2 biggest challenges of judgment and control. So, for example, as far as judgment goes, of course, those thoughts still pop into my head sometimes. For example, he isn't losing enough weight, or why does he not dress more smartly, or why does he play that stupid PlayStation game? Is he basically a child? I'm sure lots of you can relate. But I now very quickly shift these thoughts and I shift them to focusing on how much he loves me, how amazing that feels, how wonderful it is to be held by him, how he's so tall and handsome. And then the judgmental thoughts lose their hold over me because I realize that love is all that matters. And I've also learned to let go of control of some of the more minor things that were bugging me, for example, about the way he performs domestic tasks. And before I did this work, I was nagging him in a very unconstructive way, which was causing a lot of disconnection between us. Another thing I would say is that I've also learned how to speak up more when something is really important to me so that he can help take the burden off me, which helps me to get out of my masculine energy, relax, feel joyful, and just enjoy how good it feels to have this really loving man in my life. And I've also exercised the muscle of appreciation much more with Sami's support. So sometimes I even call him Hercules or Hero, and I can tell he loves it. And it makes him act in a much more loving way towards me, like wanting to do things for me, making breakfast, doing the washing up. And of course, we still have our disagreements and triggers, but in the past we used to sulk for ages and have these long periods of disconnection. And now we deal with them much more quickly and we get back to being happy again. So I would highly recommend Sami's work to anyone struggling in their love life in any form. All of her programs are like gold because she uses her intelligence and her amazing presentation skills to teach concepts very, very clearly. And of course, you then have the recordings that you can revisit over and over again so that the messages really sink in. But I would also recommend the Inner Circle because not only do you get access to a whole new curriculum of recorded content, which goes into more depth than the other programs, but you also get the live support from Sami and her coaches, who at the time that I'm recording this are Nadia and Natalie, who are both amazing. And that is what is crucial at those moments where you feel lost and you don't know if you're applying the work in the right way to your specific situation. So I would say it's definitely been worth the investment. I did hesitate before signing up because although I love investing in my self-growth, I had never spent that much in one go before. But I signed up just before the UK entered the long winter lockdown of 2020-2021, where my partner was pretty much the only person I had contact with for months on end. And I dread to think how it would have been if I hadn't had access to the teaching and the support in the Inner Circle to help me navigate that time. So instead of a stressful time, it's been a loving, romantic, wonderful time where we've grown really close to each other and been really happy. And he took a wine course last year to learn more about this subject that I'm so passionate about. And during lockdown, we've been enjoying some beautiful bottles together. Honestly, it has felt most of the time like a blissful honeymoon period. So maybe the next stage is the ring. I've never particularly wanted a ring from him because of my own commitment fears, but it's something I'm thinking more about these days. So watch this space and sign up for the Inner Circle.